Hello everyone, my name is Brennan Wood, and in this presentation I will be discussing the topic of minimum wage and its potential impact on small businesses and larger organizations, as well as the proposed changes to minimum wage. Here we have an overview of what I will be discussing in this short presentation. First, I will briefly discuss the history of minimum wage, why it was established, and what it's currently at. I will then discuss the proposed changes to minimum wage. That will lead into how those proposed changes could potentially impact smaller businesses and larger organizations. And lastly, I will discuss the impact that changes in minimum wage will have on the human resources field, followed by my conclusion. In 1938, Congress established the first national federal minimum wage under the Fair Labor Standards Act. According to the Legal Information Institute, the purpose of minimum wage was designed to create a minimum standard of living to protect the health and well-being of employees. Additionally, others have argued that the primary purpose was to aid the lowest paid of the nation's working population, which was those who lacked sufficient bargaining power to secure for themselves a minimum subsistence wage. Regardless, though, the FLSA designates the type of employees who qualify for minimum wage, which fall under the non-exempt status. Non-exempt employees are employees who do not have job duties that are considered executive, administrative, or professional. The last increase to federal minimum wage was in 2009, which was and still currently is set to $7.25 an hour. As cost of living keeps increasing and it's becoming more expensive to live, there has been a lot of talk and controversy to increase minimum wage for employees. One of the main proposed changes out there right now is to increase the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour by October 2025. This would have a lot of benefits for the affected employees, which would include over 30 million workers. One of the ways to do this would be to gradually and equally increase hourly wages by roughly $1 each year. This would help lessen the direct impact the increase would have on businesses, allowing them to adjust over time to the new minimum wage. There are mixed responses on whether raising minimum wage will help small businesses or harm them. Many people think that it could harm small businesses, though, for many reasons. Number one is that a lot of smaller businesses are already struggling to stay afloat due to high rent prices and overhead costs. With an increase in minimum wage and them having to pay their employees more money, it could be the final push to cause them to go out of business. In order to make up for these increased costs, it may force a lot of smaller businesses to have to adapt by decreasing the amount of staff they employ, leading to many workers losing their jobs. According to a CBO report on Forbes.com, as many as 1.7 million workers could become jobless due to layoffs from small businesses trying to cut costs. Additionally, another way that an owner of a small business could compensate increased cost in employee wages is to take a pay cut themselves, leading to the owner struggling to keep their business alive. Larger organizations have the benefit of economies of scale and more upfront capital to invest into their company. An increase in minimum wage will obviously increase the amount of money they pay their employees drastically, but generally it won't have as big as a direct impact on them as it would a small business. Because larger organizations have more money to invest in themselves, this could lead to them innovating and automating some of their basic job positions. We have already seen this with stores like McDonald's, where they have replaced a few employee positions with automated kiosks where customers can self-order at. If larger organizations find themselves stretching their resources to compensate employees, they could very well begin to automate a lot of their positions to cut costs in the long run. Additionally, a lot of organizations are accepting that potential increase in minimum wage, so they are beginning to pay more for higher qualified people. This allows them to pay more than minimum wage, but get a return on investment by hiring employees who will produce higher quality work, which a lot of smaller businesses don't have the luxury of doing. With the increase of federal minimum wage, it could potentially impact how human resources operates on different matters. Since an organization will be paying more out to employees, HR may be charged to attract and recruit higher qualified talent who will be more productive for the organization. With previous traditional entry-level jobs that require basic skills, they now may require a person who has more knowledge and experience to make up for the wage increase. This will require HR to possibly have to redesign job roles and specifications by combining jobs or increasing the responsibilities entailed by them to get more work out of less people. Lastly, as suggested by John Johnston, who is the Director of Manufacturing for States Manufacturing Company Corporation in Minneapolis, Minnesota, it's possible many organizations will begin to hire more part time workers versus full time workers to save on the cost of benefits and higher wages. HR will then have to take into account looking for seasonal and part time workers rather than full time, which will have an impact on how they operate. Minimum wage was designed to create a minimum standard of living to protect the health and well being of employees. While an increase to $15 an hour will initially be great for millions of workers, there may be some potential negative side effects, as I discussed earlier. Many smaller businesses who do not have the capital and resources to pay the increases may find themselves having to cut employees or, even worse, go out of business. And larger organizations may find themselves investing in automation to replace labor costs and choosing to only hire higher qualified people for previous entry level positions. All in all, a federal wage increase is likely to change how small businesses and large organizations operate, which will also affect HR rules in the process.